and welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that drives F1's worst car since 2010, so you don't have to, in the quite often desperate hunt for points. But as you can see, round 14 of the 2015 season at Suzuka, it hasn't been quite that desperate. Especially not the last time out in Singapore, which finally had a really decent run, finishing 4th around Marina Bay. A circuit that until 2014 we'd scored points in every season. Lost out in 14 through my own stupidity, but came out fighting last time out. Took 4th with a slew of late race pit stops for the AI, the leaders, and we cruised home pretty comfortably. It was a good day and brought us up to 46 points for the season. We finally bypassed 2012, so this is now officially the second most successful season in Blue Flag Bandits. Still some way to go, 34 points to catch up to 2010, which shows you just how good that season in a Virgin racing car was. But as you can see, Nico Rosberg leads the championship by 23 ahead of Lewis Hamilton, with Vettel in there in 3rd, 38 behind, Raikkonen 57 behind in 4th. Those four very much in the title fight. Bottas and Massa on the fringes still, I think. One more race where they don't really take chunks out of the guys in front. I think you could probably say that they are out of it. Ricciardo obviously well out of it in 7th. We jumped ahead of Daniel Kvyat, who slipped to 9th with 5 clear of the Russian. Perez completes the top 10. Hulkenberg and Maldonado are between Perez and Alonso. Alonso scoring a point in Singapore, a double points finish for McLaren. Absolute scenes after expecting to be destroyed, realistically. Grosjean 14th, then is Sainz, Verstappen, Nasser, Ericsson, and then Stevens and Merry at the bottom with no points. While in the constructors, Mercedes and Ferrari duking it out, there's still a small enough gap for Ferrari to overturn that. Williams way off, but in their own bubble in 3rd, while Red Bull are in their own bubble in 4th. We jumped back ahead of Force India by 11 now, after Perez and Hulkenberg both failed to score. Lotus are in 7th ahead of Toro Rosso, Sauber, Malamarusha at the back with 0 points. I don't think they're going to get any, unfortunately, but we'll see, who knows. As we head to Japan, Suzuka is not a circuit that's done us any favours. We've never scored a point here in Blue Flag Bandits, and that's, I would say, one of the few circuits left, but after poor races in Italy and in Austria, and obviously never going back to Korea, it does mean that this is one of a few more circuits I'd like to think where we haven't scored points. In fact, Silverstone, Monza, Suzuka, Korea, Interlagos, Kota, Austria and Russia, but we've only done one Russian Grand Prix and only 2 Austrian as well. So we might really struggle here. I just don't really get on with driving this place. However, the rest of this season, places like Australia, we've never scored points. China, we've never scored points. Spain, either. Monaco, and we've come out this season with points in all of those races. So, who knows? We might be able to buck the trend here and keep the scoring going if we really want to reach that 80-point score that Virgin Racing had back in 2010. Then we really do need to score, and score fast. So let's see just how tough the Japanese Grand Prix is going to be for us. I'll go out and practice. While I do, we'll talk about the real world. 2015 Japanese Grand Prix. Formula One circuit headed to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix, the first since Bianchi's accident the year prior. Manor marked the race in their own private way, while track owners made revisions at Dunlop to improve safety at that corner. Lotus were almost barred entry to their hospitality unit due to cash flow problems, with their equipment also arriving late to the circuit in what was perceived as a deepening crisis for the Enston-based outfit.
Conditions should remain dry. We will keep you informed of any changes to the weather.
The first practice session was a wet affair. Torrential rain limiting running until over half the session time had elapsed. 8 drivers would choose not to set any lap times at all, while it took some time for drivers to attempt runs on the intermediate tyres. Sainz would top the order ahead of Kvyat and Rosberg. Practice 2 began in drying conditions, but it wouldn't be long before rain would begin again, further limiting any meaningful running. One driver who didn't run was Valtteri Bottas, the Williams being kept in the garage with issues. During parts of the early drier conditions, the order was a little more traditional, though Kvyat would lead the times ahead of Rosberg and Hamilton. Dry conditions finally returned for practice 3, though the Suzuka circuit was lacking in grip with everybody condensing their runs into the final hour. Despite the busy circuit, there were no notable incidents through the session, one which ended with Rosberg top ahead of Hamilton and Ricciardo.
Okay, here's something to remember about this circuit. It can be easy to lock up going into the turn 11 hairpin. Make sure you ease off the power coming through 10. If you're flat out there, the car will be unsettled as you get on the brakes, and that's what causes the brakes to lock. Try to keep wheel spin down as you exit if you can.
Qualifying was a chaotic affair from the opening session. Jensen Button had communication issues on his first run, leaving his car in the wrong engine mode and being too slow to make the cut at Honda's home race. Ericsson in the Sauber had spun off at Spoon on his first run and was later balked by Max Verstappen stopping at the hairpin because of an electrical problem. Neither Button nor Ericsson made it through, with Nasser, Stevens and Rossi, who outside the 107% time, also falling by the wayside. Verstappen's issues in Q1 meant he was unable to participate in Q2, condemning him to a P15 grid spot. He'd be joined by Alonso, Sainz, Maldonado and Hulkenberg in the drop zone, though Hulkenberg would take a 3-place grid drop after his incidents in Singapore. Q3 began with the familiar sight of Mercedes duelling between themselves, separated by the smallest of margins, until Hamilton had a scruffy middle sector, gifting Rosberg the advantage, though it appeared Hamilton could have made up more time. The scene was set for a thrilling climax until Daniel Kvyat dropped the wheel on the grass at turn 10, overcorrecting and pitching the Red Bull into the barrier, rolling as he hit the wall. The red flags were immediately flown, bringing the session to an end, with Rosberg and pole had Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Massa, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Grosjean, Perez, and the fortunate to escape unharmed Daniel Kvyat. Mercedes pair got off the line well, running side by side into turn 1 with Hamilton on the inside. As they rounded the opening corner, Rosberg was being shuffled ever closer to the runoff, eventually backing out and losing spots to Hamilton, Vettel and Bottas. Hamilton would scamper away, while Rosberg was left to contend with the Williams, having to drop back as his engine began to overheat the slipstream. A spin for Ericsson and a pit stop for Hulkenberg gave the Williams pit wall an opportunity to get Bottas in and out in clean air. Mercedes attempted a 4-lap overcut to try and clear the fin, but it didn't work. Rosberg re-emerged behind the Williams, but it would only take a lap for Rosberg to launch up the inside of Bottas into the Casio triangle, making the move stick from a long way back. It would take another stop for Rosberg to jump Vettel ahead, managing to clear the Ferrari after a blistering outlap. Back in the field, McLaren were finding their early gains arranged with ease as Alonso and Button were both dispatched with little resistance. The likes of Nasser and Verstappen, the latter pass on Alonso bringing the now iconic GP2 ending comment from the Spaniard in front of Honda hierarchy. It would be little to stop Hamilton at the front of the field though, as he took an easy victory ahead of Rosberg, with Vettel completing the podium. The top 10 would be filled out by Raikkonen, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Grosjean, Maldonado, Verstappen and Sainz, with Alonso just missing out and securing a point at Honda's circuit, while Red Bull didn't manage to pick up any points either. The aim here in Japan? Well, Suzuka is a surprisingly difficult circuit, or at least it has been in this series, as I struggle with confidence on the power through the S's, which then compromises the rest of my lap. With this being Honda's home, I'm hoping to be able to deliver something, even if the real-world McLaren were unable to. We may luck out here, as we did in 2011, but maybe not to the same extent. So let's aim for P10, sneak into Q3, and give us a good basis to bring home points for Honda and Suzuka.
Expecting a strong showing here today from the Red Bull team. They really love this classic track and have had so much success at Suzuka over the years.
I think this could be a showdown between the Mercedes and Red Bulls today. The Red Bull team have enjoyed incredible success here over the years, but the Mercedes package could be too much for the Milton Keynes-based team.
We Don't think you'll have any trouble getting into the next session, so don't push too hard.
Thank you, and Crofty and Jeff. Jeff, they're super optimistic for Honda's home Grand Prix, but practice was a slow affair as expected, only ahead of the two-man Mauritius. As usual, they only did the prime run-in. Everybody else got on the options late on in the session, and times improved. But yeah, car doesn't feel particularly stable through the S's, and had a couple of moments heading up to Spoon Curve as well. So could be quite tricky. Hopefully, though, we can at least get through Q1 and bring a little bit of cheer to the home fans. Let's give it a shot. Take a look then at our fastest lap in Q1. Took a few laps to really get into the groove, but we're already in a good spot as we head down towards first turn. Wait to get on the brake and actually just roll off the throttle or anything to fling the car around. Not too wide on the exit either, not really compromising ourselves as we head into the S's. As I said in the intro, really always lack confidence here, and you can hear I'm just waiting to get on the throttle pretty much every time we go for a turn. But we've kept it fairly neatly tidy as we get up to Dunlop at the top of the hill. Take maybe a little bit too much grass, which actually sends us a bit too wide, but we not scrape off too much. As we head into Degner 1, we're already up on the best time, and keep it neat and tidy through Degner 1, a little wide through Degner 2, getting a little bit of gravel, but keeping the speed up and actually not costing us too much as we head into the hairpin. Weird entry angle and kind of messes up our exit as well in the middle of the road rather than committing to any apex, but we get out of it without too many problems. Head up towards Spoon Curve, just waiting and waiting and waiting until we hit the brakes, keep it nice and tight and don't run too wide, which is a rarity for us through Spoon. Same through the second part. Get a little wide, almost clipping the gravel on exit, but then it's a long run up to 130R, and at the moment the car's still feeling good. Coming up to the second timing line, we're marginally down, but no, we can make up a fair amount of time in the Casio Triangle where we were rough on our last lap. On the brakes at just the right time, ride a lot of the curve on entry, and then swing it through the final little part. It's the path of least resistance then to the line, and it's an improvement, and one that should be enough to get us through.
Time through sector 2 is poor.
The big news is that Fernando Alonso has been unable to get into Q2. This must be very disappointing for the team, as they expected to be at least in the top 10.
I mean, I'm not sure where you got that information from, Crofty, but we made it into the top 10, 10th spot at the end of Q1, 2 seconds off the pace. Threw together a lap that felt all right in the end, I think. Could have been better. Probably could have been a lot worse. I think I left a little bit of time on the table. Knocked out, though, Q1, Fernando, 8 again. And not by much either, not far from Felipe Nasr. Ericsson, Kvyat down there again, Stevens and Merry. And Ricciardo just about getting through with Felipe Nasr there. So, you know, there's going to be a couple of fast drivers behind us, or at least one. And you never know, Danny Rick might find himself falling at the next hurdle. But we are going to have to work to make sure that we do get through. Let's see how Q2 goes. In the garage then for Q2 in Japan, made it through. Same time as Max Verstappen. And we're 10th. So this session's going to be tricky, I think. We're really going to have to work to make sure, or to try and get into that top 10 shootout. I think there was a little bit of time left on the table in Q1. A couple of moments that maybe were just a bit scruffy, that if we'd tightened those up, we might be alright. But we saw a lot of people getting held up by traffic, and you can see cars streaming out already. This isn't an easy track to overtake on, so let's head out, try and get time on the board before it gets too hectic. Our fastest lap in Q2. You can see we're just on the fringes as we start the lap. We maybe need to just make an improvement to give ourselves the best shot. Into first turn, keeping it nice and tight through the first part. Maybe a bit too deep on the inside through the second part, but not too bad whatsoever as we once again cut a little bit of grass through the start of the S. This kind of compromises us through the middle. You can see that we've just got a touch of understeer, which is really compromising us getting that speed down. Nearly flipped the car completely around before heading into Dunlop. Not too shabby, but could have been a bit tidier as we head in towards Degner. 0.3 of a second up though, so the last lap really wasn't that great through Degner 2. keep away from the gravel, but just. At least it's clean and tidy as we head up towards the hairpin, keeping it quite pinned to the right before managing to swing it back in for the apex, much tidier than it was in Q1 at least. And then it's the run through to 130R, pushing the car for everything it's worth at this point, really hoping to get a good lap time out of it. As we head into Spoon, clip the apex, run it right to the outside there. It's looking good, nice and clean, nice and tidy. Have to back out of it though on exit, just as we almost throw it into the kitty letter on the outside. Managed to save it though as we head up towards 130R, and we keep it pinned and margining down again. That middle sector, we seem to be able to get one good run and struggle for the rest of the session. But first sector and final sector as we throw it through the Casio triangle, doing us some favours to try and make it through. Path of least resistance to the line once again, and we improve and move a little bit further into the top 10.
Qualifying 2 is now finished. We've got a short break now before the cars appear again for the top 10 shootout.
No major shocks then in Q2 as we make it through in P8. Again, sort of roughly the same sort of time as we had in Q1. Ahead of Felipe Massa and Max Verstappen, Romain Grosjean, Carlos Sainz, Nico Hülkenberg, past Maldonado and Felipe Nasr out in Q2. There's an outside bet here that we might actually not be on the 5th row of the grid, but it is going to be a bit of a stretch. Let's see what Q3 has to offer. In the garage then for Q3 at Suzuka, and only the second Q3 appearance that we've made here, and the only reason we made a Q3 appearance back in 2011 was because it was monsoon conditions. We took pole that day because everybody decided to follow each other around in one big long line. I don't think that's going to happen here, and honestly 9th or 10th is probably about as best as it's going to get, as good as it's going to get. But who knows, we might be able to pull a lap out that will do us a couple of favours, maybe move us a little bit further forward. So let's get out there, try and mix it with some other guys we shouldn't be fighting. Is that then in the surprise final part of qualifying? Decent lap there in P8 as we start this fastest lap of the session into first turn. Keeping it nice and tidy this time, no understeer until mid-corner, and then we've really got to wait to put the power down, which is going to cost us maybe a little bit of time through the first sector. Into the S's though, looking fairly clean and tidy this time through. A couple of bites of cherry there in the mid part of this section, but no oversteer, no understeer, up into Dunlop, little lift just to correct the car, but keep it well on the circuit. And we head towards Dagmar 1, margin for our best time. Into Dagmar 2, feathering the throttle and taking a little bit of additional inside curve there. But again, keeping away from the gravel, the most important thing. Better line into the hairpin until mid-corner, seems to struggle and snap a little bit, keeping us away from that apex, but we can at least get out with it at a quicker pace by being able to put the throttle down sooner as we head up towards Spoon. Keeping it nice and tidy, clipping the apex, in the middle as well. A little rough through the exit, and again a little wide, just a bit of understeer plaguing us through there. But we head up towards 130R, and we're looking for a breathing set time as we cross the timing line. It's not, it's only marginal. Through 130R, completely flat, no lift into the Casio triangle. Not as much curve as we've been taking through the other qualifying sessions, but that means it's meter through the exit. And we get as close to the barrier as we can for the line. Small improvement to consolidate the position.
It's been a mighty qualifying performance from Mercedes today, with both cars on the front row for the race tomorrow.
They've really worked hard this weekend, and it seems they've been able to set up the cars perfectly today. Whether this will translate into race pace tomorrow, well, we'll just have to wait and see.
And Q3 ends with us finishing the session in 8th spot. We were marginally behind Bottas as well. Maybe one more lap if we got the middle sector just right. We might have been able to jump the Williams, but never mind. I'll take 8th place. We're ahead of Verstappen and Perez, the future Red Bull pairing. Nico Rosberg takes pole by the slimmest of margins, ahead of Hamilton and Vettel right there with them as well. A little bit of a gap back to Massa and Raikkonen, then it's Ricciardo and Bottas. But it's a really, really good spot to be starting from here in Suzuka. And it might, who knows, mean that we can actually end this one with a bit of a flourish because it's been a tough circuit through this series so far. So who knows? Maybe points could be on the cards. But let's cross to the race and see how it all unfolds.
Welcome to one of this year's most challenging races, where the combination of high speed and complex corners makes this one of the drivers' favourite tracks. It's time for the Japanese Grand Prix. One man on a roll at the moment is Nico Rosberg. He could pretty much cruise to pole position yesterday, such was his performance advantage. Barring any mechanical problems, he's in a really strong position now for the race.
It's certainly better for a driver to be out in front, as they're able to drive without having to contend with the dirty air and overheating caused by being sat behind another car.
It's been a tough season so far for Sauber. The Swiss team have been scrapping down at the wrong end of the grid.
Sauber have struggled to come to grips with the new regulations, and their car has been off the pace all season. It's pretty clear to see that neither driver is happy with how the car is handling this year.
Very much, Ant and Crofty, and welcome to the grid for the Japanese Grand Prix P8. After a bit of a surprising amount of pace in qualifying, I didn't expect to be in that sort of position come the end of the session, but here we are. And I don't know, Japan hasn't been kind to us in this series, isn't kind to us in modern Formula 1, to be honest. We've got faster cars behind us. And I just feel we're going to really, really struggle here, which is a shame, because starting in the points, you want to try and stay there or even move forward. Depends how much shenanigans there is, though, because I feel like the guys up ahead of us may find themselves bumping and barging into turn one, maybe through the S's as well. It is something that can happen, and often does, at Suzuka. The aim's got to be to try and hold on to the points, even if it is just a solitary point at the end of it. So we're going to aim for P10 in the vain hope that we can just cling on by our fingernails. Maybe the strategy will work for us. Maybe we'll be able to defend. But the run from Spoon up to 130R, the run down into turn one, with the DRS particularly, we might really, really struggle. So it's going to be a bit of a fight, this one, a bit of a scrap for Honda's home race. Hopefully we can do him proud, though. Let's get the 5 red lights on. And out again for the 2015 Japanese Grand Prix.
You managed to qualify better than we expected yesterday, so let's do the same again today.
Giving us words of encouragement, I think, as we get away off the start. Verstappen one side, Perez the other. The pair of them go wheel to wheel into one. That's Massa and Vettel. They're off the road.
Okay, the incident
We get back at the inside of Verstappen and Perez. We bounce off Bottas. We're on the grass. Slip backwards again, but managed to get back in front of Verstappen and Grohl there. All over the place. Sainz up into P7. Move on Sainz in the Dagners. We get him. Spook him out of the way. Back up into 7th. He's really getting away from us.
We will keep you informed of any changes to the weather.
Contact for Vettel and Massa. They're really struggling into Spoon. We have the tyre watching there. Yeah, we have. Got that tyre glitch again. The tyres are absolutely ruined at the start of the race. The Sainz goes inside into 130R with Grosjean, who pushes him through. Just a monumental accident there. As Bottas, Ricciardo, Perez, they all head in. We're going to have to head in as well, as the tyres are absolutely ruined. Mercedes double stacking. Williams will be double stacking. Ferrari too, probably. All a little bit messy in the pit lane. Get held as a Marussia, or Mana Marussia, in with no front wing.
Exit now. We're racing on the exit.
Do manage to get back in front of Perez and Verstappen though. What a mess that first lap was. Half the field stayed out, half the field are in.
You'll be able to push sooner once these scrub tyres are up to speed.
Vettel and Bottas. I don't know how long for though, because I feel they'll probably get away from us. Sector 1 we've been pretty good in this weekend. Or may even be carrying damage. Bottas and Vettel both off the road. He just about avoid them. We're heading back onto the circuit. We had an incident like that with Hamilton earlier in the season. We avoided Vettel just as we got through the second part of turn 1. Going to be on me quickly, but a couple of spots made up there.
Estimating from Ricciardo's tyres, we're expecting him to come into the pits within the next 5 laps.
Critical though to see where we end up in relation to everybody who stayed out. We're going to have enough pace to past them. That'll look in one way, then the other. We're just going to have to just about give him enough room. Through he goes into 130R. Late on the brakes, a big send into the Casio chicane. And then Vettel's round. He's clipped Bottas, he's round.
We've moved into P14.
Maldonado in the pits will pick up another spot. He's just coming out of the pits as we get there. We might struggle to jump a number of the cars that were in front of us or have stayed out thanks to our tyre glitch. And Bottas will keep him to the outside, but he'll be through well before 130R. Can we do to Bottas what we did to Vettel? Fights leads, it is a dive again into the Casio chicane, and we make it. Bunch of cars in the pits. Who will we get back past? We're through on Ericsson. A couple more as well, maybe. Naza there. Grosjean gets out in front of us. But not by much.
The pit window is closing this lap.
Single file through the acids, but Grosjean makes a little mistake. Car wiggles a touch. We're at the inside and into P10. Originally wanted to be in at the end of the next lap, so that's what we're going to aim for. Hulkenberg has managed to stay out in front of us, as you'd kind of expect. I guess Fernando might be coming in this lap, so we're going to have to stay out anyway. Grosjean and Bottas are both probably going to have a run up towards 130R. Grosjean goes through, Bottas will not. I don't think. I thought he was going to go for it for a minute, but he didn't. Once again now, late on the brakes, into the Castle chicane. Back through on Grosjean. Is in. He's actually leading the pits. We're not going to jump back in front of Carlos Sainz. Just holding on to the top 10 here now. All a little bit mixed up, a bit messy at the moment. Probably will have a wait the next few laps as pit stops start to fall roughly in the same sort of time. Takes the lead. That would suggest that we've had more people heading on in. As Grosjean has a look at 130R, we have to take the late turn in. And they're still not in. They'll head in now then. Harry is in front of us. That's how messed up this order is at the moment. man behind us. Tight with Valtteri Bottas here. Well, make it into turn 1 before he gets there. P14 after that stop. Roberto Neri, man ahead of us. I'd like to think we can catch him on track. Cars diving in. Alonso, I think, is going to be one of them. That he is. Catch him, Fernando. He's currently Honda's best time for points at the moment. There's Valtteri Bottas. Too far back for a dive, although he thought about it briefly there. All over the curb through the Casio chicane. Doesn't have DRS. On Mary, Max is in. Past Mary, past Massa, sorry. That's now stuck right behind Roberto Neri. Vettel behind us as well. Whoa, I just thought we could squeeze through the middle there, and Bottas rubbing wheels. Of the needle between Neri and Bottas. That man of Russia, though, you don't think is going to have much more defence left. Round the outside at the Dagners. There's contact. Neri's round.
Fernando's a couple of places ahead of you.
Not sure why he didn't back out with it. I know he had every right to be there, but we were round him. Being a chaotic Japanese Grand Prix. We're only 9 laps into it. All compared with the man in the lead at the moment. Here comes Bottas up to 130R again. Oh, as we get make contact with him, we're going to have to pit.
Really bad state. We need you back in the pits this lap.
Lifted through 130R. Back in the pits, laps early. Front wing change. Back down the order we go. Vettel's been in as well. He got Neri, I don't know.
Stop complete. That leaves us with 3 stops remaining. 3 stops.
Grosjean was, I guess, in the pits with us. 3 stops left. And to come in at the end of the next lap.
The car behind has just fitted the option tyres. Car behind now running the
On
options.
the outside of Will Stevens through the S's though.
You've moved into P17.
He's just leaving the pits now. There he is. We'll just get back past the Lotus. This is going to be a pretty dismal result.
The Manor driver is in the pit lane. The Manor driver is in
Stay
the pit
out
lane now.
rather than take the pit in that the team want us to. So we're now going to be on a bit of a weird strategy. Ryan Nazar though, back into P12. How long we're going to try and hang these out, but it's not been a good opening half of the race. Flag, eh? Might have been instant behind us because Verstappen is now the man behind. We once again ignore the team, stay out. I'm up into 9th. Position's obviously we're going to lose when we do pit in. Originally due to pit
The Force India
this lap.
cars is about to stop by the looks of it. Their pit crew are getting ready. Okay, the data is showing the tyres are close to dropping off. If the degradation is too much, consider pitting.
Box this lap, which is where we were originally meant to box before Bottas lifted in the middle of 130R. We're going to move on to the primes though, see if we can, I don't know, strategise our way back into things. Ferrari have just been in for Vettel by the looks of it. And Bottas will get by.
Exit now.
Well, actually, Hulkenberg's through. Merry will potentially go by. No, they've come in. Alright, P12 it is, and Merry does go by. Massa's come in.
One stop left.
Prime tyres. We're going to need to stop 2 laps before the end. Not. Merry heads into the pits, so freebie for us there. We're into P11, so not far off points. Coming in the pits now. So we'll be for position. Get past the Ferrari, moving to P10. Back in the points. Vettel now the man in the pits. We might actually gain a couple more. And we do. Vettel and Hamilton.
In terms of fuel, our data suggests
P8.
we have around half our initial load remaining. 50% fuel.
Difficult to stay in front of those guys. Something Ricardo may have just had a bit of a coming together. A bit further ahead.
Kvyat is the race leader.
To the right hand side on the road to screen, he should easily get towards 130R, I think. Not going to give him that much resistance.
Okay, here's the fuel situation at the moment. We have 20 kilos remaining. That's 20 kilos.
Blue flag to directly inside of him there. Just about.
Okay, the gap to the car behind is 10 seconds.
Hulkenberg in. He will get past the Force India.
We moved into
Far ahead of
P8.
us.
That's P8 now.
We're just now trying to run to the end of this one. Science in the pits. We might gain another spot there. Yes, we do. Can I go into P7? Stevens skips his way away from us.
Hamilton has just entered the pits. He's in the pit lane right now.
And then once again,
We're 2 laps away from the next
Ricardo
round of
in
stops.
2.
We're going to fit the optional
We're
tyre.
5th. Is this going to be like Singapore when we just
Fernando's a couple of places ahead of
score us a decent result by just avoiding going in as many times as the AI? Fernando in 3rd, I think.
Tyres are looking fairly worn at this point. We're not optimistic about them lasting much longer.
Ricardo and Hamilton on us now. Fresher tyres. But I don't think that and this is really worth the hassle and potential damage it could cause.
Kvyat is out in front.
Was there as well. Or maybe Perez. Somebody was there. Force India. There's the inside. Hamilton will also be there. Back it off into 130R just so we don't clatter the back of the Red Bull.
Okay, I'm keeping an eye on our tyre condition here, and I don't think we can rely on them much longer.
Hamilton will go through as well. Fair enough. Behind us again. Fresher tyres, faster car. We're really just trying to hang these tyres into the end. Not going to fight this one too hard. We've got a bit of a gap back to Sainz.
Okay, there's 10 kilos of fuel left. 10 kilos of fuel.
Again, then our final lap of this Grand Prix. Nursing these tyres home with Sainz closing.
Kvyat has the lead.
The tyre glitch right at the start. A bunch of us went in.
You're lapping 3 seconds slower than Sainz. We need to respond or he'll be on
Closing. I'm getting back into the top 10 on merit.
The car behind is running on full revs. Mix 3. He's going to attack.
Bottas got past us at 130R and then lifted. Took out our front wing. Meant an extra pit stop, but we've rejigged our strategy as Daniel Kvyat takes his first win of the season, I think, in the Red Bull. Having re-strategized, moved on to the fines a little early, which is why we're now nursing them to the line. Sainz gets past us, there's going to be quite the gap to the next car, so we should be okay. For still holding on to points. Alonso, I think, has been running up in the podium. We'll see at the end where he ends up. Give it everything towards 130R. Run wide though. See if we can stay in front of Carlos Sainz. There goes the Toro Rosso. Can we get back past him? We fire it up the inside, and we do. Through the Casio triangle. At least resistance to the line as he swings to the outside. We'll out-drag him. And we finish P8.
It's been a good day's racing, but it's been an exceptional day for Daniel Kvyat, who's taken home the win.
It really was a great performance, and one that I think will be remembered for a long time to come.
That's it for today's Grand Prix, and from Ant and I, it's goodbye, and see you again next time.
Well, would you look at that? Daniel Kvyat takes the win ahead of Nico Rosberg. Fernando Alonso takes a podium at Honda's home race by going 3 stops to some other people's 5. Hamilton took 7 stops. Daniel Ricciardo took 6. Bottas was 4th. Then it was Hamilton, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg. We finish 8th. Sainz finishes 9th. Kimi Räikkönen eventually took 10th off Romain Grosjean. Must have been a last lap battle between him, Max Verstappen, and Romain. Marcus Ericsson finishes 13th ahead of Perez. Then Massa, Nasser, Maldonado, Vettel down in 18th. It's Stevens and Roberto Merri to round out the 20. Everybody finishes. Merri, though, 2 laps down. What does that do to the stand-ins? Well, Rosberg now leads by 31 points ahead of Hamilton. Then it's Vettel in 3rd. Räikkönen is in 4th. Bottas is 5th. Massa 6th. Ricciardo in 7th. Kvyat jumps us to move into 8th, and he's 16 clear now. Perez is 10th. Fernando Alonso now a point behind him after that podium result. Hülkenberg is 12th. Then it's Maldonado, Sainz, Grosjean, Verstappen, Nasser, Ericsson, Stevens and Merri remain on 0. In the Constructors, Mercedes now lead by 99 points. They're on the cusp now of pulling away from the Scuderia. Ferrari remains 2nd. Then it is 3rd for Williams, way out ahead of Red Bull. We remain 5th, but we pull away from Force India thanks to Fernando's podium and an 8th place for us. Lotus remains 7th, then it's Toro Rosso, Sauber and Mana Marussia down at the back. What a race that was. Chaos at Suzuka, absolute madness in the early stages, and it ends with a double Honda point score and a Fernando Alonso podium. podiums for both of us this season. What results should I say for McLaren Honda this year? We've really given it everything. Russia is next, and that could be another quite fun race the way things are going. But our first points in Suzuka, so on to our first points in Hungary and a bunch of other places as well. What a way to keep the points run going. Singapore and Japan ticked off with big positive results. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Do all the good stuff. I'll see you in Sochi for the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.